Well, but I mean, like,
Thank you. Just try and get your last drink or some food and take a seat. Just try and get your last drink or some food and take a seat. Oh. Hello. All right, guys, we're going to get going here. Hey, guys, we got 6:15, so we're going to start the debate here momentarily.
Yes, it's in my wallet, actually. I was like, I'll take it off there and put it in my wallet. Mute my computer.
Oh.
Get on the camera. All right. All right, guys, go ahead and take a seat when you get a chance here. The mic good? Hello? Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hello, hello. Let's quiet down, folks. We got a debate to get to, right? Let's quiet down. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Trevor Jepson, and I am the... Hello? Hello? Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Trevor Jepson. I'm the current president of the Alaska Young Republicans, and on behalf of... You don't got to clap. And on behalf of myself and the rest of the executive board, I would like to thank you all for coming out here tonight, supporting our event, and what is our first ever mayoral debate. Last year, under our previous president, Sarah Hatimi, the Alaska Young Republicans completely transformed ourselves from what was once primarily a social group into now one of the premier grassroots political groups in the state of Alaska. In the last election cycle, we made thousands of voter contacts, we got dozens of new young people involved with politics, and we supported numerous Republican campaigns, many of which were successful victories. So going forward, we plan to continue growing our group, supporting Republican candidates, real Republican candidates. But in order to do that, we count on donations. And first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who donated tonight and made this event possible. And going forward, try to shoot the mic here. Hello. Okay. And going forward, if you ever feel obligated or just want to donate again, just feel free to do that via our page on the Alaska Republican Party website. And if you want to get involved, just simply message us through Facebook or get in touch with a current member that you know. And our meetings are the third Wednesday of every month, and just keep looking for that on Facebook as well. We post that update about a week or two before the meetings, and they've kind of been changing based to COVID, but follow that Facebook page, like it, share it, and you'll be up to date on everything. So now, that's enough salesman talk. So we are extremely excited to have these three candidates here tonight. These are the three candidates that our executive board believes have the best chance and are most in line with our values. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dave Brunson. And Mr. Mike Robbins. And last but not least, Mr. Bill Evans. Now, I'm not going to use the played-out moniker that this is the most important election ever, but I think we all know that this is an extremely important election. We've seen what 6 years of a leftist liberal agenda can do to our city. For the fourth straight year in a row, the population of Alaska has decreased, the majority of that coming from the municipality. We have more homelessness, more drugs, more crime, and less opportunity than I can ever remember in my lifetime. So we need one of these three men to become the next mayor of Anchorage, and we strongly believe with our whole hearts as the Young Republicans that one of them will. Thank you.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Alan Erickson. I will be your moderator for tonight. The Wire Executive Board has chosen the following topics for this debate: opening Anchorage back up, homelessness, and make Anchorage great again. We will give candidates 1.5 minutes to respond to each of the three debate topics. Each candidate will then have 45 seconds to challenge one of the other candidates on the response. The candidate being challenged will then have 45 seconds for rebuttal. To start, we're going to give you guys 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and we're going to go ahead and start with Bill Evans.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Young Republicans, for putting on this event, and thank you all for showing up and everybody watching it. I'm Bill Evans. I was raised by a single mom. I was the first family to graduate high school. I served in the 82nd Airborne Division as a paratrooper. After that, I was a police officer and a SWAT team member. I am, for the last 29 years, a management side labor lawyer, a number of municipal state boards. Now, all of us here, I know all the guys on the panel here, and I assume want to see Anchorage go in a different direction. And the thing we have to keep in mind is that if we want to go in a different direction, have to win the election. Now, I am a little bit concerned because one of the three of us is going to go up against Forrest Dunbar in a runoff election. I can guarantee it, Forrest is going to make it. One of us is going to be his opponent. I'm a little concerned if one of my two is that candidate, simply because whether you like it or not, Anchorage has become a much more city than ever before. In this last election, Anchorage voted for Joe Biden by 3%. That includes Eagle River, the whole city. Joe Biden. And look at the record for so I think you have to be careful about candidates that have positions on Stop the Steal, have positions on state. Because we know what the union PACs are going to do. We've seen it before. And you may think it's not a lot for Anchorage. Now, when you listen to us tonight talking about COVID and you're talking about economic development, minutes already? One question you're not going to hear, it's because... Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's a fast watch.
Mike Robbins, if you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Can you hear me? I think that having a positive vision. Five or six. That I really want to thank Republicans because you are the future Republican.
All right, and Dave Bronson, would you like to introduce yourself to the voters as well?
Yes, I will. My name's Dave Bronson. I first want to say thanks to the main event here for the great venue, fantastic. I just want to say thanks to Young Republicans. First and foremost, I want to introduce my wife, Deb. She's sitting here. We've lived in Anchorage for 30 years. We've raised our two kids here. We intend to grow old and, in my case, get fat and die in this city. We love this city, and like many of you, we don't like what we see. My employment history is I'm a retired military officer. I spent thanks. I spent 24 years in the Air Force and the Alaska Air National Guard as a pilot and a maintenance officer. And then I retired in 2005 from the Air National Guard as Lieutenant Colonel. And then I retired just last September from my 30-year commercial flying career. Again, like many of you, I don't recognize what's happened to my city. These guys are in an agreement. We don't like what we see. And quite frankly, it's a terrible situation. And I'm running for mayor to change that, because this needs change. This is your town. You people are here because you're under 40 years old, and the future of this city is tied directly to your future. So I'm just here to tell you that as mayor, I'm going to stop this mandate business. I'm going to stop the shutdowns. I'm going to open our schools. I'm going to open our churches. I'm going to open our assembly. And we got to get back to business, because the business of this city is certainly business. I'm going to be the most pro-development, pro-progress, pro-prosperity mayor that this city has seen in a very long time. I just want to say thanks once again for this venue, and may the debate rage.
Thank you for that. Gentlemen, we want this to be a cordial debate. All right. Hold on one second. I think we got someone streaming it behind us. Okay, so to Bill Evans, and the question is going to be opening Anchorage back up. Over the past year, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen our city struggle massively as businesses get shut down and closed for good. Friends and family members have lost their jobs, and children have suffered from a lack of in-person education. What would you do day one of your administration to help open Anchorage back up? You have a minute and a half to answer this. Give me one moment. There you go.
Thanks. I mean, it's obviously a question that's at the top of everyone's mind. To be honest with you, the pandemic is a moving target. I assume, like, if it was today, there's no reason for the restrictions we have today. We had 18 positive counts in Anchorage yesterday. We had like 40 today. It is a small number. There's no reason to be destroying our economy for that level of public health protection. Now, I assume that in July it'll be better with everybody getting vaccinated, and we should be freely open. But if things change and all of a sudden we have thousands of cases again, if that's even possible, you have to protect the public health. But right now, it lacks common sense, the things we have to do. I was talking to some mother today whose child plays basketball, and I didn't realize it, but they have to wear masks while they're playing basketball. They can't place. We're losing the state tournament in Anchorage, which is always a big draw for our hotels and our restaurants and everything like that, because we won't allow teams to come into Anchorage to play basketball with 44 cases yesterday. I think it's ridiculous. We have to have much more common sense. We have to open Anchorage up. It's vital for our economy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mike, would you like to go ahead and respond to that?
Can I check on the colors so when I'm watching you, I know exactly what each color means? 30 seconds. Okay, right on. Well, opening the city up is one thing. When we open the city up, you need a good conservative business person who knows how to grow the economy, who's created jobs in Alaska for Alaska. It won't do us any good to open the city up if we don't have a plan as to how we're going to do it. So obviously, as Bill said, COVID is a moving target. But everything that I've seen tells us that by the time we get to May, we're going to be at 60% vaccination rate. We'll all be proud that we live in this state, #1 in the country in vaccinations and #1 in the country in testing. No matter what you think of the virus, that gives us all an advantage. We have a tourist season. If we don't get this city back open, and we don't get our tourist business guys, we're not going to see any traffic. We had a meeting at the airport. We were talking to these guys, and they were telling us that they're working really hard to get the traffic back. But if we don't get the city open, it's not going to happen. So I know that my job as the mayor of Anchorage, to opening up the city, is to be the top Republican. So in addition to opening up the city, we're going to recruit like-minded individuals to run for the assembly, so we can also rebalance out the assembly so this kind of stuff doesn't happen to us anymore. I need your help to do that. The young Republicans are the ones who are going to send these candidates for us over the next couple of years. So as the mayor, I know that part of my job is to help you grow your organization. I'll commit.
Thank you for that. Dave, would you like to answer that question?
Well, yeah, quite frankly, to answer the question directly, I wouldn't shut down the city like these mayors have done. One, I think it was ineffective. I certainly am sympathetic with their considerations of what they didn't know early on. But the principle that a government can come in and shut down your churches, can come in and shut down frankly, your homes, your small businesses, that's unconscionable to me. They can't do it. If this virus is as bad as they thought in the beginning, you wouldn't need to tell people to stay home and close their businesses. They would have done it on their own. And when it comes to things like masks, it's not a thing with me. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask. The thing we got off kilter on was that when we started off well, and that was, protect the elderly. If you have multiple comorbidities, stay home, stay safe. I supported that. The goal was to flatten the curve so as not to overload our hospitals. Somehow, back in June, I think, it changed. No one's supposed to get the virus. And that's the devastating policies. The devastating policies came from that. And quite frankly, why we're still shut down, why we're even talking about this anymore, I don't know. There's an agenda going on somewhere. Maybe I don't understand it. But we should have never shut down. I'm going to open this. I'm going to shut it, or I'm going to open the city back up and end the shutdowns. That's simple.
Mike, you'll have 45 seconds to offer rebuttal to any of the candidates that you wish.
Well, I'm just glad to see that we can all agree on something. And that is that no matter who wins this race, we're going to open the city. So that's great that we can agree on that. So no matter who you vote for, you can count on the city being open. You really have to think about the best qualified person. Lived in this city. I've started business in this economy. I've hired employees in this economy. So I don't really have a rebuttal. Said, with what Dave said. I just like to say that it's awful.
Okay, thank you for that. Dave, do you have a rebuttal for anyone?
Well, I get this sentiment that somehow, and I think I need to address it, sentiment that somehow that as not being a businessman, I shouldn't be running for mayor. I'm not qualified to run for mayor. This is what we got to understand about this job that we're running for. It's a political job. I'm not running for a business job. I'm going to hire business people to run the departments and the enterprises and utilities, the very best business people that we can find. But I'm running for a political job, and that requires leadership. I've demonstrated my leadership, 24 years in the military. At times I've had 220 people working for me. 30 years as an airline pilot. Many of those years I had people working for me as crew members that I had to motivate, 12, 13, 14 people, depending on the flight. And I
You have to understand how we responded to COVID, balance and lack common sense. I think it's perfectly fine for a city to protect the public health of its citizens. If you have a deadly virus going through the city, it makes sense that the city has to take steps to protect the public health. I just disagree with the way they evaluated and the way they balanced everything. A smart city, I think, would have invested in contact tracing. Like cities around the world, countries around the world use that method to keep their cities safe, reduce the rate of spread, and still keep their economy open. It was the best thing. We didn't do it. Instead, we relied on shutdowns and limiting business, which is easy if you're a politician, and I would have done it differently.
Hey guys, so just to clarify, this is just a show of hands. Day one of your administration, the mask mandate will be lifted and the executive orders will be lifted. Day one of your administration, mask mandate lifted, executive order lifted.
All right. So our second topic is the homeless problem in Anchorage. In the last 6 years, under the Liberal Mayor Ethan Berkowitz and now Quinn Davidson, administrations, we have seen homelessness explode like never before in Anchorage with no real or impactful solutions put forward. What is your plan to help solve the homelessness crisis in our city? And why would it work where other plans have failed? And we'll start with Mike Robbins for a response, please.
Thank you very much. So,
The district.
fellow was just non-existent. And the Republican Party asked me to step up to the chair. The first thing I did was I assembled a team. I think we've got 17 active members on our district state this last year. And part of the reason, or part of the way we were able to do that is because we organized. We did the same thing when we onboarded our campaign. I've never run for office before. First thing that I did is I gathered good, smart people around me, like-minded conservatives, who had the same vision of Mayor to Anchorage. That's exactly what we've been doing with the problem. What we've done is have what we call issue committees, and we have people from the community who are immersed in this every day, because I can tell you what I think the solution is, but I don't know that much about home, only what I've learned in the last 6 years. And so we've onboarded people, and our solution is to put together a plan as measurable goals and watch it work. Part of the issue we've got now is that our homeless, a lot of well-intentioned, probably doesn't. They're all operating in silos, talking to each other. So what we need is the city needs to come in, our shoulder in this process, get all of these folks together so that we can get them all again, like pulling in the same direction.
Thank you. Dave, would you like to respond to that question?
Yeah, the homeless issue, first and foremost, needs to be understood at the street level. I've talked to people who come out of the homeless, actually lived on our street, on our streets in Anchorage. And until you understand it from that level, I don't know how we're going to solve the problem. You have to get the individual who's living on the street, freezing to death, and going hungry. You have to understand that they have to get to a point in their life where they want help. The coalitions, the Anchorage Coalition End Housing, it's a collaborative group of a bunch of groups that actually deal with it. I just had a Zoom meeting with them a few days ago, about a dozen there, and they all talk to each other. They all know each other. They know what each other is doing. But the one thing they all have in common is this, is that they all provide, they do their very best, and they're good at it. They provide services, they provide warm beds, and they provide warm food for these people. But they never get to the last step, which is how many people are left on the street after you're done. It's like they got to the 90-yard line, and then they stop, and I keep asking, that person on the street at that moment in time, what do we do with them? And they say, well, we've got a program, we've got training, we've got housing. No, what do you do with that person at the time? Because they don't go into their housing facilities. So it comes down to the police department has to take them down to city jail. And that's an expensive proposition. And so frankly, we've got to intervene and help these individuals get to the point where they want help from us. That's what we have to do. Otherwise, it's not fixable.
Thank you, Dave. No, Bill's got to go. Bill's still. Hey, Bill, would you like to go ahead and respond to that question?
Sure, thanks a lot. You have to grow Anchorage's economy, and you cannot grow Anchorage's economy until you solve the homelessness problem. And in order to solve the homelessness problem, you've got to get people off the street corners from begging and out of the camps. And there's two ways to do that. To get them off the street corners, it's a constitutionally protected right to sit on the street corner and beg. You can't stop that. But what you can stop is giving money to them from cars. It's already illegal. If you enforce that law, it takes away the economic incentive to be hanging out in street corners begging for money and makes Anchorage look a lot better. You just got to do that consistently. And as far as camps go, the reason we are doing nothing with the camps is because there's a law that requires you to hold their property for 10 to 15 days before you dispose of it. So what we do is we tag them,
We chase them around the city. They keep moving their camps, and we clean up after them. We have the Parks and Rec department go out there. We have community volunteers go out there. You need a facility where you can take their stuff immediately and hold it for that 10 to 15 days and not let them go wandering around the city and establish new camps. If you do those two things, Anchorage starts looking a lot better, and you can start developing your economy.
Thank you, Bill. Dave, you have the first rebuttal. Would you like to offer a rebuttal to either of the candidates?
Well, I agree with much of what Bill says. The storage of personal gear is actually, believe it or not, is a very critical part of that. We have a court case called Martin versus Boise last year, Ninth Circuit Court. That creates the envelope in which we can operate. You can't criminalize homelessness. However, I'll disagree with Bill. You can take people into custody. You can cite them for other things like public drunkenness, public lewdness, and loitering. You can do that, and that's the process where we get them finally into the system, where they get to the decision point that we need them to get to as individuals, which is you're going to decide if you're going to get better in a jail cell, which is the worst case scenario, or you're going to get better in a demonstrably proven effective program. That's what we got to get to.
Thank you, Dave. Mike, would you like to offer a rebuttal to either of the candidates?
I thought Dave was my.
You can, yeah, either one.
So we do agree partially. Don't think solving the home. Part of the reason. More people down there last week walking over, and because of the economy, because it blocks their jobs. So it's the two are sort of not tied together. But as we crank the problem, but homelessness isn't going to go away by dealing with the camps. It's not going to go away. Tag them and store their gear. Bottom line with homelessness is we have a drug and alcohol problem in this city, and that's the reason people are homeless. We have to attack this problem at the lowest level. We have to get people before they get in this.
Thank you, Mike. Bill, would you like to offer a response to either Dave or Mike?
Sure. Question for Mike. I was glad to hear that District 26 has it going on apparently, and you referenced that they have a plan. Why don't you share for us what the plan is? I didn't catch that. The plan you said you have to deal with homelessness.
So it starts with while we've talking to. Have to have more beds. Okay? Have to be able to get people right now. Second step is to get these organizations together. As I become mayor, I know Dave said they're talking to each other. They're talking to each other, but not communicating in the right way. They're not communicating what they need from each other. Some of these companies or some of these organizations are providing the same service. We have to get everybody at the table. We have to give them a task, and that task is to come up with a measurable plan so that we can slow down, stop.
Thank you for that. Bill, do you want to respond to Dave Bronson at all as well? Or he already responded to Mike.
Substance abuse and treatment is a critical component. But until you get the people off the streets and out of the camps with investment dollars or businesses that they want to bring and drive from Ted Stevens Airport to downtown and decide, yeah, this is the city I want to invest in. Until you clean up the city and stop the look that we have now, you don't get that economic growth. You got to clean up the homeless problem. You got to be sensible about it. You got to be legal about it, and you can get it done.
Thank you. Dave, do you have any further rebuttal or response?
Well, I just want to say I agree, frankly, with Bill on that. This is critical to the survivability, frankly, of our downtown. Our downtown we need reinvestment. We need to develop our downtown, and as long as there's people living on the streets and stores are boarded up, we're not going to get the investment dollars that we need to develop our downtown. First and foremost, on the homeless thing, we need to understand the numbers, and I get this from the expert. The homeless problem, the number of people right now is about 3,000. The number of people living on the streets, the one that give us problems, when we think of homeless, we're thinking of the people that are walking around on the streets. There's about 150 of them. This problem is solvable from our perspective. Now, there's people that are living in shelters that we're paying for, and they're considered homeless. This is a very solvable problem if we just get up and do it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So the next question is, how are you going to make Anchorage great again? And this next question is more open-ended and will be your chance to show voters how thoughtful and creative you are. What is one key policy you would implement as mayor to help make Anchorage great again? And we'll start off with Bill.
Thanks. First of all, it's not so much I want to make Anchorage great again. I want to make Anchorage better than it's ever been before. And I think you can do that. I think you can do that because the 21st century, this digital economy plays into our hands. Investment is much more fluid, capital is more fluid, employees are more fluid. You have to be a city that attracts all of those things. We have all the natural amenities in the world that you cannot buy for billions of dollars. If we clean up our city, if we eliminate, I guess the one thing to make Anchorage great again would be we have to get the government to be a friend to business. We have to be a pro-business city. Currently, we are not. Currently, we get in the way of development. We make development hard. We lose development, and that's what you see on the streets. That's the boarded up buildings you see. And COVID's a problem, granted. We had this problem way before COVID. I got in this race before COVID started because I saw these problems that we were having, because we had a government that didn't care about the private sector. You've got to change that. That's the only way. That makes all the difference. All the programs you want, and all the social programs you want, all get paid for by an effective economy. If you don't do that, you fail as a city.
Thank you for that, Bill. Mike, would you like to respond to that question?
I'd like it to answer this.
Yes. Well, no, answer the question, and then we can do rebuttals.
Okay. Well, you said, what was the one thing our administration would do to bring back the economy?
In general, yeah, what would you do to make Anchorage great again?
First thing I'll do is get elected mayor. And the second thing I'll do is part of the challenge that we have here in Anchorage right now, we're very focused on our. What I mean by that we don't have the vision to be able to move our city. You know, the difference between success and failure in every venture is usually about this much, right? So if we could just pick our vision up a little bit in the city, we can look to the future. And I think we can build a city like Bill is talking about. I think we can build a city where people want to live here. I think I won't have to convince my son to come back here when he graduates college because COVID hit and he can't stay. People want to come back here. They'll be good jobs. In order for us to do that, we have to raise our vision as a city. We're going to find solutions to all these things we're talking about. Homelessness and crime and COVID, all those things are going to get fixed because they're operational. We can't substitute vision operation. So one of the things that we're going to do when we're elected mayor, on day one, we're going to start trying to build. The reason we're going to do that, build that bridge, we'll open up hundreds of thousands of acres of. We can build affordable housing. Because the biggest problem they tell us with homeless is affordable housing. And no young couple can afford to buy a home for $400,000. We have to have a vision as a city to be able to move in that direction. Don't, then Republicans stay stagnant, out migrate.
Thank you, Mike. Dave, would you like to offer your vision for making Anchorage great again?
Yes, well, to answer it directly, the first and foremost thing we got to do is we got to end the shutdowns. We simply got to get back to business. Second is what we really need to do is we need to deal with the vagrancy problem we have on the street. All three of us have talked about it at length, but that thing touches every last aspect of this economy, and it prevents us from developing this city. We know the 5 causes of homelessness. I hate to get too esoteric here, but the first 3 are drug, alcohol, and psychiatric. But the other problem is the lack of affordable housing. Why is housing so expensive? It's because compliance with the regulatory structure that we have from the Muni adds 30% to the cost of a home. Those are the homes that we need that will help alleviate this homeless issue. And we're hostile to those people who want to build the homes in this city, and we simply have to do that. I will make the regulatory structure far simpler, far cheaper, so that the developers can get the return on investment that they have to develop the homes and the down that we want to come back to. Yeah, the 21st century, but we got to keep working on the fundamentals and the housing. That's the big 3. There's one, the fourth line over the
Thank you, Dave. So we'll go ahead and start with Bill. Bill, do you want to offer a rebuttal to either of the candidates' response?
I'll follow up with Dave on that last response. I mean, Dave, I agree with you 100%. We've got to bring down those costs of building. But my question is, Title 21, which governs building in the Anchorage Bowl, is a document, a book that is literally this thick. And it's a law that took 15 years to pass. It's very dense. And the people that are enforcing that law in that bureaucracy that we have a problem with are covered by collective bargaining agreements and all these protections. How, knowing that and knowing that it requires the assembly in order to make changes to Title 21, how do you go about making those changes you were talking about?
For me, do I respond to that?
Yes, go ahead and respond, Dave.
Well, you fix that on the first Tuesday of April 2022. And if you don't quite get there, you fix it on the first Tuesday in April of 2023. We've got to change the assembly. This race here is a moment, and it's a very important moment. In fact, it's one of the most important elections we're going to see in this city. Okay, but every first Tuesday of every April for the rest of your life you sit in this city, we need a movement, and that movement is put conservatives and Republicans in office in the assembly so we can change Title 21, so we can change Title 22. We don't need EV wiring ports compelled upon our builders. We don't need sprinkler systems in our fourplexes. We simply don't need these things in this assembly. They're the ones that have imposed it. Title 21 and 23, they're changeable. Put the right people in power and we get the right policies. That simple.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Mike, would you like to offer a rebuttal to either of the candidates' position? Okay.
I do agree that problem for again, kind of how I started the answer to this question. Yes, we have issues with Title 21, right? Yes, that's adding to the cost of building homes, but that's not going to solve. Focusing on that issue isn't going to solve the problem. I know you talk about doing the fundamentals, but the fundamentals is what got us to where we are now. Have to have a bigger vision for the city. Have to look forward. Where do we want to be in 25 years? Where do we want to be in 50 years? We still want to be arguing about Title 21? No, we want to be someplace different. And the only way we're going to get there is if we start thinking about, we'll get the building and planning department in line. We can do all of those things. Those are operational. We have to have a vision towards the future. If we don't, we're going to be
Thank you, gentlemen. So now we're going to move on to some Q&A. I have a few different questions that have been submitted. One of the first questions is, when you guys talk about opening up Anchorage and improving the economy here, I can say for myself as a business owner, owning 3 different businesses in Alaska, that 2 of which are C Corps, the single biggest challenge to bringing economic success to Anchorage is our state corporate tax rate. It's one of the highest in the nation. And if you look at Alaska, with any major accounting firm, we're about bottom on places to do business. What would you do to help solve that problem to really fuel making Anchorage great again? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Mike on a response here, and you'll have 1 minute and 45 seconds.
What I would do is, obviously, mayor, I can't change the state corporate tax structure. I can work with our delegation to try to affect what happens in June. One of the things that we've talked about as we talked about running for mayor, I met with some of the other mayors, and I met with a couple of mayors from outside Anchorage who frankly said that the mayor of Anchorage doesn't pay attention to us. Basically, it's Anchorage and everybody else. There is a municipal league of mayors, and they fly down to the States and they have these meetings, but we don't meet with the mayor from Wasilla. We don't meet with the mayor from Fairbanks. We don't meet with the mayor from Juneau. So when I'm elected mayor, one of the things that I'm going to do that's going to affect problems just like this is we're going to put together a coalition of mayors. Because when the mayor of Anchorage and the mayor of Juneau and the mayor of Fairbanks and the mayor of the Kenai Peninsula shows up in Juneau, they're going to talk to us, and we'll be able to make these kinds of changes.
Thank you, Mike. Dave, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, well, we do need to collaborate with other mayors, and frankly, I've already been talking to mayors. I know Edna Palmer. I've known her for 20 years. She's a close friend. I talked to her. I just spent a night at Charlie Pierce's house. Deb and I did last week talking about this very thing, primarily how he handled COVID. He had a great plan. He endorses me. So we do need to collaborate from the mayors around this city or around this state. But again, like Mike said, the mayor of Anchorage can only do so much statutorily. The governor in the legislature controls tax rates. I think the highest corporate tax rate we have in the state is about 9.5%. And you're right, that is huge. But there's nothing the mayor can do about it. The mayor can just use his bully pulpit, work with the legislature, to bring those rates down.
Thank you, Dave. Bill, would you like to answer the question?
Sure. This question it involves a lot of things, but one of the things is we have to have a better relationship with the state. The state cannot succeed with an Anchorage that fails, and Anchorage cannot succeed in a state that fails. Yet we, as Anchorage, spend an inordinate amount of time sticking our finger in the eye of the state for political reasons and for things that don't matter. We have to work together. The mayor of Anchorage and the governor of the state of Alaska have to be partners in this because we have so many common interests. And it doesn't matter what political party they're in. It doesn't matter who they are. They have to work together. We need to get the politics out of the way in that relationship and focus on solutions, and we'll all be better off.
Thank you, Bill. Dave, would you like to offer a rebuttal to either of the candidates' positions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mike, would you like to offer a rebuttal to either of their positions?
Last 6 years have stuck our nose in of the, but it goes back much farther than it's not that. Used to have a sort of attitude, as Anchorage goes, so goes the state. It's not really that way anymore. We kind of look at ourselves as not part of Alaska.
Thank you, Mike. Bill, would you like to offer a rebuttal to either of the candidates?
Time here. Yeah, I think one of the things that I think that we have to use the Anchorage Legislative Caucus, and the mayor should be meeting regularly. What I've heard from the Democrats in Juneau were upset with Ethan because he wouldn't even talk to him. These people were elected to represent segments of our city. They should be working together with the mayor on all the interests that benefit Anchorage. That'd be another thing.
Thank you, Bill. So our next question is, as Republicans and candidates for mayor, what would you say to younger voters who align with many conservative principles, like support for the Second Amendment and lower taxes, but believe more should be done to address issues like clean and renewable energies and areas relating to climate change? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Bill on a response to that question.
I think it's a great question. I mean, no matter how, I mean, we're in an oil and gas state, a resource extraction state, and that's great, and it's paid our way for a very long time. But anybody that has any vision that Mike's talking about can see the writing on the wall. Investment banks are not investing anymore in oil and gas. The world, Ford Motor Company is making electric vehicles. Everybody is moving in the direction of alternative energy, and Anchorage as a city has to see that and has to take the opportunities to reach out and get those industries to invest here. If we clean up our city like I want to do and make it available for investment, some of those investments should be in alternative energies. That is the trend, and any mayor that doesn't pay attention to that is doing a disservice to the community. So that will benefit the people that are concerned about climate change. And even if you're a climate change denier, got to see the writing on the wall, and that's the way the world is going, and Anchorage needs to pay attention to that.
Thank you. Mike, would you like to offer a response to that question?
One of the things, as I talked about, have to have this vision for where we want to head. And when we talk about renewable energy, the best things about going to get Joe Biden to pay. He's about to dump billions of dollars into infrastructure. We're about to bring back here. Don Young is the. Luckily, we have Don Young. We're also going to, thanks to you guys, we're also going to do where we have one of the fastest, one of talked about full energy generate, high generate clean renewable part of that. I think that would get us even more money. I think that what we have to do, of course, we have to look for ways to solar. We have to cover them. That's one of the reasons we're also talking about building a bypass. Because if we connect the Seward Highway, connect the Glen Highway, part of our vision, also lower carbon emissions, and it'll give people a way to travel from the valley to the peninsula without clogging up our city and our streets. So Anchorage will be a better place to live. We'll be able to have less trucks. It will be fantastic.
Thank you, Mike. Dave, would you like to respond to that question?
Well, just a point of clarification, just for something Bill said, I agree. Ford is, and nearly every motor car company's got a deadline for all electric cars. That's not alternative energy. That's alternative transportation. Alternative energy is something else. That's the solar. That's the hydro. That's whatever that creates the electricity. Because if you're in a little electrical car, there's that's got to come out of the wall at night and go into your car. And in Alaska, we make electricity, gas, oil, and in a few small dams around the state. We've got to remember where we're at. Of the fundamentals. The fundamentals are this is the gas state. We make most of our electricity with gas and other things. So my focus has got to be on what the mayor can do. Quite frankly, if an alternative energy methodology pencils out, I am all for it. The days when the taxpayer has to keep subsidizing these alternative energy projects, I'm done with that. I hope you're done with that. And go gas, go oil.
Thank you, Dave. Mike, do you have a rebuttal to either of the candidates' position? Okay, thank you. Bill, do you have a rebuttal to either of their positions?
Clarify a bit, Dave's comment. I agree that we shouldn't be subsidizing, we should be making, alternative energies. And I'm not talking about Anchorage switching itself to alternative energies for its own power supply. I'm talking about companies that build solar panels, companies that build these alternative or wind generators locating in Anchorage, coming to Anchorage because it is a lifestyle destination and actually bringing jobs here in those industries. And when it pencils out, sure, we can switch, but it does have to pencil out. I agree with that.
Dave, do you have any response to Bill?
No, I've said everything. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, our next question is, do you have a plan, and what is it to get an access route built to Point McKenzie? We'll start with you, Mike, for a response to that.
Part of what stopped the bridge and part of what stopped the building was our city government. Because the assembly and the mayor have the ability to sign off and sign on projects. So there's already been plans created to do that very thing. They've been trying to do that since like 1925. And Mayor Ethan and the assembly have taken things off of the docket, and they've told the state that we don't want this project here. You know, there's a bypass that's on the 2027 development plan for the state, and they said they don't want that. They were going to build Elmore Road and put Elmore Road through. And so it starts with providing leadership that has a vision, knows what they want to accomplish, to know how to take the city. That's what we've been talking about.
Thank you, Mike. Dave, do you have a response to that question?
Well, yeah, my opinion is I pass if we get it to work. But everything government does is complex and difficult. That doesn't mean you don't try to do it. I am certainly for the bridge across the inlet. That's a good idea. It is a bridge to somewhere, not to nowhere, and it got caught up in a political thing several years ago that it shouldn't have been caught up into. I've been told the money is still there. The Japanese group that wanted to build the toll system there is still interested, and I would support that wholeheartedly because we need the real estate to build our homes. The one trouble though for the municipality is this: that's not our borough. That's not our tax base. When you start building stuff out there, and if the commercial property goes with it, our tax base, that's not Anchorage tax base. You might be able to create a sharing thing with the Kenai or the Matsuda Borough, but I don't think that's going to happen. But nonetheless, we do need the real estate. We certainly need to need the real estate to build the homes that we.
Thank you, Dave. Bill, would you like to respond?
We are a country started on the east, expand every valley and every river all the way across this country with bridges and other infrastructure to develop the entire country. And this bridge over here is just about the end of the line. So I am in support of doing that. That's our sort of manifest destiny for this country. But we have to understand it ain't that simple. When I was on the Chamber of Commerce is when Kabata was really doing this project, it didn't pencil out. The cost of that bridge and what you would have to charge for tolls for what they projected to be the amount of cars coming over it was exceptionally high. I'm in favor of looking for ways to make that cost efficient, but you also have to be aware, like Dave said, that you build that bridge, we are a city that's based entirely on property tax. And all of a sudden, everybody wants to move across the affordable housing over there. What's that going to do to your city and your finances? And what's it going to do to your housing stock? Right now, we're kind of limited, which has disadvantages, but also has the advantages that we have to refurbish our housing stock. All of a sudden, there's plenty of available land and it's cheap over there. Do those houses just sit here and deteriorate? You just have to be aware of those things. You have to be careful, but you have to pursue that project because I think it's the right thing to do in the long run.
Thank you, Bill. Dave, do you have a rebuttal to either of the candidate's position?
Oh, I think, as Bill said, Rich can pencil out. I'm for it. It has to pencil out. And I'd like to dovetail on what Bill said. I had a New York City for the convention once, and I had a breakfast with Ed Stevens. Something he said to me struck me close. And during the Bridge to Nowhere controversy, Bridges from the Nile, and then I asked him about it. I said, Dave, what I do? I get up every morning and I ask myself, what can I do for the state of Alaska? And he says, remember this, and this comes on from the West thing talking about head on, and that is this, that everybody got their money, got their turn at the pot of money as we developed, like Bill said. Okay, our turn, and we're not the ones that are supposed to take the cuts. We're going to start cutting that federal projects. West, quite frankly, Hawaii, Alaska, and Anchorage were the last ones to get our money cut from the federal funds. That made a lot of sense to me what Ed Stevens said, and I.
Mike, do you have a response to either of the candidates?
Cisco said the same thing. Worried about property taxes, about home values. They're worried about the values of these things. But what's happening in Anchorage right now, we had the largest out-migration last year in the history of our city. Those people are going to Wasilla now. Part of the reason they're going out there, Wasilla has created an environment that says, I want. So it's not about losing what we've got. It's about gaining. You know, we can build affordable housing. We can develop the real estate over there. Heritage Land Bank owns a ton of land. The municipality is going to benefit hugely from the development. So it has to happen. Anchorage has nowhere to go. Have to find somewhere to go.
Thank you, Mike. Bill, do you have a response to Mike?
Just, I don't use San Francisco example for
All right. All right. Well, thank you for that. All right. Okay. No rebuttal. You agree, Mike? All right, Mike agrees, and I assume Dave agrees with that too.
Anything San Francisco.
All right, good. Okay. Okay. So for our next question, and this is really just a straight yes or no. If you were mayor, would you ever support mandating a vaccine for certain events or for children in school? And the response to this is yes or no. We'll go ahead and start with Dave for a response.
No.
No, all the way across the board. Okay, thank you. So lastly here, we're going to give you each 2 minutes to help undecided voters decide why you would be the best candidate for mayor for Anchorage. So with that said, go ahead and start with Mike Robbins. Mike, you have 2 minutes to make your case to voters.
So Anchorage is the spot. We're lucky, got 3 good men. But we've also got 3 bad men. And I believe that we ought to be very, very afraid of electing Forrest Dunbar as our next mayor. This man is a tax, he will tax us to death. I don't know what his obsession with, which is what bathroom is, but you know, he wants to get involved in our lives in a way that doesn't belong. So you vote for which the three of us that you choose to vote. Very, very important. And I know that my opponents said that it doesn't matter that they don't have business experience. And I can't hold it against them that they haven't had the same life experiences that I've had. You know, we're all shaped by the things that happen to us. We're all shaped by the positive and the negatives that we go through in our life. And over the last year, I've gone through a lot. And when I walked downtown, I was listening to Dave talk. You know, downtown is dead. Nordstrom is gone. Fifth Avenue Mall is gone. We have got to find a way to bring the heartbeat back to this city. And it's not going to happen if we sit around arguing about how we're going to fix the homeless problem or what are we going to do with Title 21. We have to lift our sights. We have to look to the future. We have to figure out a way to drive development in this city. No business is going to want to come here at the energy costs we've got now. No company is going to want to come here and build at the land costs we've got now. We are locked up, and we're locked up because of the way we think. Have to expand the way we think about our city, have to expand where we want to take it. Because if we don't look ahead, that's the default.
Thank you, Mike. Bill, would you like to tell voters why they should vote for you?
Love to. Anchorage has got problems. Everybody here knows that. It's very evident. And we have to solve those problems. I like, you know, Dave quoted, you know, Ted Stevens earlier, and I'd like to quote Ted Stevens as well, who's always very popular to quote. But Ted Stevens was famous for saying, "The hell with the politics, do what's right for Alaska." We have to do the same thing right now in this city. The hell with the politics. We have to do what's right for Anchorage. We are a very divided city. And, you know, Lincoln said, we can quote Lincoln too, a house divided against itself cannot stand. We have to come together on these issues. We have to have leadership that tries to bring people together to get our problems solved. And we can do that. And, you know, it's weird that people want to run for mayor without any experience. Like, it doesn't matter. It does matter. You have to understand how the city works. You have to understand how the budget works. Those things aren't bad. I have those experiences. I also have the experience as a police officer. I understand how to affect the crime problem we have. And the last thing I'll say is I am also a business owner. I don't know where you get this idea that there's no other business owners. I own a law firm. I sign the front side of a check, and I've never been sued about it. So I think, you know, I've got as much business experience as anybody else. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Dave, would you like to go ahead and make your case?
Sure. The reason we're having this discussion and three of us are in this race is because this town is pretty much screwed up. It's screwed up because everybody on the political right to the political middle fell asleep for the last 10 years or a little bit less. We have got to wake up. This election is about you, especially you under 40s out there. And if you're young Republicans, you're under 40. This election is going to impact your ability to pay your mortgage. Because it's going to impact your property taxes going forward. We have sat on the sidelines too long. The left has raised their kids to go into politics and take over culture. They've been very successful. Fait accompli. It's done. Now it's time for us to wake up and pay attention to this election and every assembly election thereafter. This is up to you. You can fix it. We can fix it by electing the right person. We get the right people in office. They execute the right policies, and a lot of our problems go away if the right people are in office. I think I'm the leader that can do that. I honestly believe that. I can do this. I can lead this city forward. I can go into a very clear new direction, which is like Forrest Dunbar wants. At the end of the day, he is an extremist. So is Bill. Bill is an extremist as well. He just not this Bill. Bill Falsey. Bill Falsey is actually a really nice guy. I think he is. Forrest Dunbar is not, and Forrest Dunbar is going to take the left half of the political spectrum on April 6th. You got to figure out who's standing up here can beat him. And quite frankly, rule number one, electoral politics is this: turn out your base. I think I will turn out my base, and I will turn out those people in the middle, who in the slightly center left, who understand that this city is in really big trouble and they need a leader to fix it. Thank you.
1 minute. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now offer you 1 minute to offer rebuttal to one candidate of your choosing. And we'll start with Mike.
I missed whatever he said. You guys all like. What did you say?
I said I'm a business owner, I've run a business, and I haven't been sued.
Excuse me for the kids watching. Take that out. My wife's always getting on me about swearing up. Well, all I could say is that maybe if you've never been sued, you've never. Because, you know, I think you're a lawyer and you probably do the suing more than you get sued. So I know lawyers are really careful about suing people because they don't want to get sued back. So anyway, you can't control when somebody sues you. People can sue. So as a business owner, you take risks, and if somebody else wants to date me, please step forward. But if you take risks, and again, doesn't make either one of these guys a bad guy, but I've been working and building businesses since I was 17. Sometimes along the way, you make good decisions. Sometimes you make bad decisions. You know what? All you do is you pick yourself up and you work through it. And adversity builds character. The one thing my dad always told me. So, there you go.
Thank you, Mike. Bill, would you like to respond to one of the candidates?
No. I just thank Republicans for a tremendous event, and thank my opponents here for stepping up and running for office. It's hard to do. Trust me, and I have respect for them.
All right. Thank you. All right. 1, 2. Dave, do you have a rebuttal comment for any of the candidates?
No, this is important, and again, like Bill just said, I appreciate these two guys stepping up. This is, we've been at it. Bill's been at it for 14, 15 months. Mike and I have been at it for about 8 months. This is a long haul. It's difficult. All my tools and my workbench are still sitting in the same spot they were in August when we started this. And so it's time consuming. So I appreciate these guys standing up and running, because quite frankly, I know exactly what it takes, and I applaud them for that. Great. That's all I've got.
All right. Am I on? Am I on? Okay. Wow. What a great debate, huh, guys? Can we give these guys another hand of applause? Yeah. Yeah, so once again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us. And for those watching via live stream, I know you see us posting our donation link in there. So make sure you know where to go. And then for everybody else in the audience, if you do wish to donate, we have a QR code at the front that you can scan with your phone, or you can find our donation link on our Facebook page. And with that, I'd just like to give a few thank yous. Let's first give it up for Mac, who's been on the camera all night for free. And then, of course, our wonderful debate moderator, Alan Erickson. And then last but not least, the Wire Executive Board, who was instrumental in putting this together. And a special thank you to Andrew Dexetti, who was our events chair. Where you at, Andrew? Thanks. Stand up. All right, guys, and with that, we have the room till 9 o'clock, so feel free to stick around and have another drink, mingle, talk to the candidates. We still have a ton of food left. And thank you all again.